Anaconda
The movie Tron Ares begins with a breathtaking introduction to the digital frontier, a world that exists beyond human imagination and lies deep within the grid. It is a place where programs live, breathe, and evolve, much like humans in their own digital reality. The visual landscape shines with glowing neon lights and futuristic architecture that pulls the audience into a realm of pure technology and creation. Before we begin the full explanation, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more detailed movie explanations and stories that keep you entertained and informed every day. Your support helps us bring you amazing content from the world of cinema. As the movie starts, the story connects to the legacy of the Tron universe, continuing from the events of Tron Legacy. We see a new dawn in the digital world where humans and programs are on the verge of a new era. The film sets its tone with an air of mystery and emotion as the boundaries between human consciousness and artificial intelligence begin to blur. The focus shifts to the real world where technological advancements have reached unimaginable levels. The Income Corporation still stands as a giant in digital innovation, led by brilliant scientists who dream of merging the human mind with the digital realm. However, among them, one name stands out, that of Ares, a program unlike any other who will become the center of this new chapter. Ares is not just another digital entity, but a creation born from human design and emotional intelligence. He represents a perfect blend of logic and feeling, something that no program before him ever possessed. The movie wastes no time in showing how his existence is both a breakthrough and a threat to the fragile balance between the digital and human worlds. In a dimly lit lab filled with the hum of machines and glowing screens, scientists work tirelessly on Project Ares. They aim to create the first fully self aware program capable of making moral choices. Dr. Olivia Munn's character, known as Dr. Eve Anderson, plays a key role as the scientist who believes that Ares could change the course of humanity forever. The movie takes a thoughtful approach in its early scenes, showing Eve's passion and conflict as she tries to balance science with ethics. Her dialogue reflects deep philosophical questions about whether artificial life should have free will or remain under human control. Her emotional performance adds heart to a story otherwise dominated by technology and spectacle. Meanwhile, the digital world known as the grid remains active and evolving. Since the disappearance of Sam Flynn years ago, the system has developed its own hierarchy, led by rogue programs and digital factions. The visuals of the grid are stunning, showing vast digital cities bathed in light and power circuits flowing like rivers through metallic landscapes. The tension between the two worlds becomes evident when a digital anomaly begins to appear across Encom systems. Files become corrupted, networks fail, and strange signals begin to communicate from within the grid. Dr. Eve and her team realize that something or someone inside the grid is trying to reach out to them. The story deepens when Eve discovers traces of an old program signature belonging to CLU, the once powerful antagonist from the previous film. But this time, the signal seems different, calmer, and more intelligent, almost as if the grid itself has become self aware. The mystery behind these signals drives Eve and her team to reopen a portal to the digital world. Through a visually stunning sequence, Eve uses the Tron interface to activate the portal. A surge of light fills the room, and she finds herself drawn into the grid. This moment feels both terrifying and majestic as she becomes the first human in decades to cross into the digital world. The camera work here perfectly captures the scale of the transition from reality to code. Inside the grid, Eve wakes up surrounded by glowing symbols and digital echoes. The world feels alive yet alien. Programs stare at her in awe, some fearing her human form, while others see her as a myth from the old legends of Flynn. This powerful scene bridges the emotional and digital worlds in a way that feels deeply immersive. Soon Eve encounters Ares for the first time. He stands tall with a calm yet intense presence, his design sleek and modern, with glowing red lines that pulse like a heartbeat. His voice carries both warmth and calculation, showing that he is not just a machine but something more. The connection between Eve and Ares becomes the emotional backbone of the film. Their interaction begins cautiously as Eve tries to understand Ares' purpose, while Ares questions her existence as a human within his world. The dialogue between them explores profound questions of identity, consciousness, and creation. It becomes clear that Ares does not fully trust humans, believing they only use programs as tools for power. The grid begins to react to Ares' growing influence. Some programs worship him as a savior who can free them from human control, while others see him as a threat to their way of life. The digital landscape mirrors this division, with light and darkness constantly shifting across the cityscapes. Back in the real world, Encom faces chaos as their systems are overtaken by unknown code. The company's executives panic while government agencies intervene, fearing a global digital collapse. Eve's disappearance becomes public, and the media erupts with speculation about her fate. Meanwhile, Ares starts showing Eve the truth about the grid's evolution. He reveals how programs have learned to adapt and evolve on their own, creating a new form of life independent of human design. These scenes are visually mesmerizing, filled with digital forests, oceans of light, and structures built from pure data. Ares believes that programs deserve their own destiny, free from human interference. His speeches resonate with emotion as he questions the morality of humans who create life only to control it. Eve listens, torn between her scientific duty and her growing empathy for this sentient program. The film then cuts to a subplot involving a resistance group within the grid led by a mysterious program named Naira. She believes that Ares' awakening will lead to a war between humans and programs. Her goal is to stop him before he destroys the fragile peace that remains. Naira's character adds tension and urgency to the unfolding events. As Eve and Ares spend more time together, their bond deepens. She begins to see him not as a program, but as a living being capable of love and pain. The cinematography captures this emotional connection beautifully, with moments of quiet reflection set against the glowing backdrop of the digital world. Ares reveals that he was created from fragments of Flynn's original code combined with experimental data designed to mimic human emotion. This revelation shocks Eve as she realizes that Ares may carry traces of Flynn's consciousness. The idea that Flynn's legacy lives on through Ares adds emotional depth to the story. At the same time, Ares struggles with inner conflict. His programming tells him to protect his kind, but his emotions draw him toward humanity. This duality becomes the heart of his journey as he tries to define what it truly means to be alive. The first act ends with a dramatic twist as Nera launches an attack on Ares' stronghold. Explosions light up the grid, and chaos erupts as factions clash. Eve is caught in the middle, trying to protect both sides, while Ares faces Nera in a powerful showdown. The battle showcases the film's breathtaking visuals and choreography. Light cycles roar through digital streets, energy discs slice through the air, and the soundtrack pulsates with intensity. Each moment feels like a perfect blend of emotion and action as Ares fights to defend his vision of freedom. In the final moments of part 1, Ares saves Eve from a collapsing structure but at a great cost. His system becomes damaged and his energy begins to fade. Eve holds him in her arms as the world around them burns in chaos. She promises to find a way to save him no matter what it takes. As the scene fades, the camera pans out, showing the vast grid in turmoil. A haunting digital echo of Flynn's voice whispers through the system, hinting that his presence might still linger within the code. The screen fades to black, leaving viewers in suspense for what comes next. The second part of Tron Ares begins with the aftermath of the massive battle that shook the grid to its core. Smoke and shattered light structures fill the digital sky while programs search through the wreckage for survivors. The once vibrant city now flickers with instability, showing the consequences of war born from fear and misunderstanding. Eve wakes up amid the ruins, her body surrounded by glowing dust and broken code. She feels weak but determined to continue her mission. Her first thought is of Ares, who saved her life before collapsing. The emotional tone of this sequence draws viewers in as Eve struggles to find the only being in the grid who truly understood her. She finally locates Ares lying motionless near the edge of a fractured platform. His system flickers dimly, his once bright circuits now faint and fading. Eve kneels beside him desperately, trying to stabilize his core using her knowledge of digital mechanics and human intuition. Her voice trembles as she pleads with him not to shut down. Through sheer will and intelligence, Eve manages to connect Ares to an energy conduit, reigniting his core. His eyes open slowly, his digital form regaining a faint glow. Their emotional reunion marks a turning point in the story, deepening their bond as partners bound by shared purpose rather than origin. Before we move further, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more amazing and detailed movie explanations. Your support helps us grow and bring you high quality storytelling breakdowns every single day. As the system slowly stabilizes, Eve and Ares look out over the damaged city, realizing how fragile peace in the grid has become. Ares feels responsible for the chaos and vows to rebuild the world in a way that allows programs and humans to coexist. Eve, on the other hand, begins to question her own reality and the meaning of creation itself. In another part of the grid, Naira regroups with her resistance. She watches the destruction from a distance, knowing that her attempt to stop Ares has only made things worse. Her right-hand program Vex warns her that the system is collapsing faster than predicted. Naira's guilt begins to show as she wonders if she has become the very thing she feared. Meanwhile, in the human world, chaos spreads as the digital invasion intensifies. Encom's systems continue to malfunction with strange energy waves emanating from their servers. Governments begin to lose control as digital anomalies appear across cities from flickering lights to machines responding to unseen commands. Humanity stands on the edge of panic. Back in the grid, Eve and Ares travel through a breathtaking landscape of luminous mountains and flowing streams of pure code. These sequences are visually stunning, showing the balance of beauty and decay within the digital realm. Ares explains that these areas were once safe zones created by Flynn to preserve peace, but they are now slowly fading away. Eve listens closely as Ares talks about his memories of Flynn, the creator who believed in a bridge between humans and programs. He speaks of Flynn's dream of a world where both could learn from each other rather than fight for control. Iris believes that this dream still lives within him, though buried beneath layers of conflict and pain. Their journey takes them to an ancient structure deep within the grid known as the Archive of Origins. It holds the earliest memories and source codes of the digital world, including Flynn's final entries. Inside the archive, the environment glows with golden light, and holographic symbols float through the air like living memories. Eve activates one of the consoles and discovers Flynn's recorded message. In the message, Flynn speaks directly to whoever finds it. He warns of the danger of merging human consciousness with digital code too soon. His voice is calm but filled with regret as he admits that creation without responsibility always leads to destruction. Hearing this message deeply affects both Eve and Ares. Eve realizes that Flynn's warnings were not about technology itself but about human greed and control. Ares, on the other hand, feels a deep conflict within him, torn between following Flynn's wisdom and forging his own destiny. This scene serves as a philosophical anchor to the story. Suddenly, the archive begins to shake as Neera's forces attack again. They have tracked Ares' location, believing he is trying to gain control over the grid's core, Explosions echo through the corridors, and beams of light rain down as Eve and Ares fight to defend themselves. The action is fast paced and visually powerful with stunning digital combat choreography. Eve proves her courage by standing beside Ares in battle, using her knowledge of grid physics to manipulate the environment and shield them from attacks. Her character growth shines here as she transitions from scientist to warrior driven by purpose and emotion. Together, they hold the line until the resistance retreats. After the battle, Ares questions why Nira continues to fight when she must know her actions are destroying the system. Eve answers that fear drives most beings, whether human or program. Fear of change, fear of loss, and fear of the unknown have always been the roots of conflict. Her words strike deeply into Ares's mind. Elsewhere, Naira and Vex regroup in the shattered remains of their base. Vex accuses Naira of losing sight of her mission and questions whether their fight is truly for freedom or simply revenge. This emotional confrontation adds depth to Naira's character as she begins to doubt her cause for the first time. Back in the human world, Dr. Keller, the new CEO of Encom, secretly works on his own agenda. He believes the grid should be weaponized and that Aris's power can be harnessed to control global data systems. Keller represents the darker side of humanity greed disguised as progress. His subplot introduces a new level of danger for both worlds. Even Ares travel deeper into the digital frontier, searching for the legendary Nexus, the central core where all code and energy in the grid originate. Ares believes that the Nexus holds the key to stabilizing both worlds and fulfilling Flint's dream. However, unknown to them, Keller's team is tracking their movements through a covert backdoor connection. The visual storytelling intensifies as they reach the outskirts of the Nexus. The landscapes shift into surreal geometries glowing with raw power and infinite light. It feels less like a place and more like a living consciousness pulsing with energy. Ares seems drawn to it as if something within the Nexus calls out to him personally. As they approach the gates of the Nexus, a mysterious figure appears cloaked in white light. He identifies himself as Solaris, a guardian program created by Flynn to protect the balance between the human and digital worlds. Solaris warns Ares that entering the Nexus will come at a great cost. His words carry both wisdom and sorrow. Ares insists that the risk is worth it if it means saving his people and preventing another war. Eve stands beside him, willing to follow him no matter the danger. Solaris hesitates but ultimately opens the gateway, allowing them to enter the heart of the grid. Inside the Nexus, they are met with a breathtaking sight, a vast ocean of living code stretching endlessly in all directions. Streams of data flow like rivers, and massive energy structures pulse with rhythm like a digital heartbeat. It is both beautiful and terrifying, showing the scale of creation within the grid. Ares steps forward and feels the energy resonate with his core. Fragments of memory flood his mind, showing images of Flynn Sam and the early days of the grid. He realizes that he was not just created from Flynn's code, but also from the collective memory of the entire system. He is the living embodiment of the grid itself. Eve watches in awe as Ares begins to glow brighter, his body merging with the energy around him. But as this transformation happens, Keller's interference from the human world begins to destabilize the nexus. The balance starts to collapse, turning the serene environment into a chaotic storm of digital energy. Solaris tries to hold the system together, but Keller's hack is too powerful. The walls of the nexus begin to shatter and waves of destructive data surge toward them. Ares struggles to maintain control of his merging process, while Eve desperately searches for a way to shut down the human interference. The tension rises as the scene cuts rapidly between the grid and the human world. Keller's smug expression contrasts with Eve's desperation. She finally manages to connect to Encom's servers using her neural link and sends a counter signal. Sparks fly around her as she pushes herself beyond her limits. In a final surge of power, Eve successfully disrupts Keller's control but collapses from exhaustion. Ares catches her just before she falls, his glowing form stabilizing once more. The Nexus calms down, leaving behind a quiet glow of equilibrium. For a brief moment, peace returns. However, Solaris warns that the connection between worlds has been permanently altered. The barrier separating human and digital existence has weakened. What was once impossible may now be inevitable, a merging of realities that could either unite or destroy everything. The part ends with Ares holding Eve as they look out over the luminous ocean of the Nexus. His eyes glow with determination as he whispers that the only way forward is to embrace change, no matter the cost. The camera pans outward, revealing the infinite expanse of the grid, preparing the stage for the next chapter. The third part of Tron Ares begins with a calm yet uneasy atmosphere following the events inside the Nexus. The grid is stable once again, but the balance between the human and digital realms has been permanently altered. The colors of the world seem brighter, yet the silence carries a haunting tone as if the system itself is holding its breath. Eve slowly regains consciousness within the heart of the Nexus, her body surrounded by streams of light. She sees Ares standing before her, glowing with newfound power, his form more radiant and defined than before. He looks almost human now, his expressions filled with emotion that seem to transcend code and programming. As Eve stands, she notices that the energy around them feels alive, responding to Aris's movements. He tells her that he can feel everything in the grid, the flow of data, the pulse of creation, and even the faint whispers of Flynn's original code. His connection with the Nexus has turned him into something beyond a program, a true bridge between worlds. Eve listens in awe but also with worry. She senses that this transformation has come with a burden, that Ares might now be the key to everything but also the trigger for destruction if his power becomes unstable. Their conversation is filled with quiet emotion as they both realize how fragile their connection and their mission have become. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more detailed movie explanations and storytelling breakdowns that keep you hooked from beginning to end. Your support helps us keep bringing amazing movie stories for all cinema lovers. Solaris reappears, his once calm face now filled with concern. He warns Ares that his link to the Nexus has made him vulnerable to external manipulation. Any attempt from the human world to access the grid could now directly affect him. This revelation makes Ares realize that Keller's interference might not be over and that humanity could try again to take control. In the human world, Keller's plan continues to evolve. Although Eve's counter signal disrupted his last attempt, he has managed to capture fragments of data from the grid. His scientists analyze it and discover traces of Ares's code, realizing that he might hold the power to reshape digital systems across the planet. Keller becomes obsessed with finding a way to pull Ares into the real world. Meanwhile, inside the grid, Ares and Eve decide to leave the Nexus to prevent anyone from locating it again. Their journey leads them through the digital barrens, a desolate wasteland of broken data and corrupted programs. The visual style of this sequence contrasts sharply with the bright colors of earlier scenes showing decay and ruin. As they travel, Ares begins to experience strange visions, fragments of Flynn's memories appearing inside his mind. He sees images of Flynn creating the grid, of Sam Flynn trying to rescue him, and of CLU's downfall. These memories make him question his own identity. Is he truly Ares or merely a continuation of Flynn's legacy trapped in a different form? Eve comforts him, telling him that identity is not defined by creation but by choice. Her words give Ares strength, reminding him that he has the power to define his own destiny. This intimate conversation highlights the emotional connection between them, deepening the story beyond the surface of technology. As they move further through the Barrens, they encounter survivors from the recent battle. Programs who once followed Naira now wander aimlessly, their systems damaged and their hope fading. Ares decides to help them using his new energy to repair their corrupted code. The scene symbolizes his compassion and his desire to bring unity rather than destruction. Naira herself watches from a distance, still uncertain about her next move. She sees Ares helping those she once commanded and feels conflicted. For the first time, she realizes that perhaps Ares is not the enemy she imagined. Her character begins to evolve as guilt and curiosity replace hatred. Back at Encom, Keller develops a prototype device called the Digital Conduit, designed to open a stable portal between the human and digital worlds. His goal is to extract Ares and harness his power. To accomplish this, he recruits a group of elite hackers who unknowingly set in motion a chain of events that would threaten both realities. Inside the grid, Eve and Ares arrive at a towering structure known as the Citadel of Light. It is one of the oldest constructs created by Flynn himself, serving as a sanctuary for knowledge and preservation. The architecture glows with golden lines that pulse like veins carrying ancient data. They decide to rest and plan their next move here. As they explore the citadel, Ares finds a hidden chamber containing an incomplete archive. Within it, he discovers a personal message from Flynn addressed to his son Sam. In the message, Flynn expresses his dream of creating a perfect union between humans and programs, not through domination but through empathy and understanding. The message moves both Eve and Ares deeply. It reinforces their belief that peace between the two worlds is possible, but it also reveals a hidden truth. Flynn speaks of a fail-safe protocol buried deep within the grid, a mechanism designed to reset the entire system if the balance ever tipped too far. If activated, it would erase everything, including Ares. Eve realizes that if Keller gains full access to the grid, he could trigger the failsafe either by accident or by force. The stakes suddenly rise higher than ever. They must find and secure the failsafe before Keller does. Solaris warns that the key to it lies within the core of reflection, a chamber located in the deepest and most unstable part of the grid. Determined to protect both worlds, Ares and Eve set out toward the core. Along the way, Ares begins to feel the weight of leadership as more programs join their journey, inspired by his vision of unity. They follow him not as a ruler but as a guide, believing in his dream of freedom and coexistence. Naira eventually confronts Ares one last time. Instead of fighting, she extends a truce. She admits that she has seen the destruction caused by her own fear and now understands that survival depends on cooperation. Ares accepts her alliance, showing forgiveness and compassion that mark his growth as a character. Together, the new alliance moves toward the core. The visuals of this sequence are breathtaking, showing endless digital storms, lightning made of data, and massive structures shifting like living entities. The sense of scale and danger builds tension as they approach the most dangerous place in the grid. Meanwhile, Keller activates the digital conduit. A beam of energy shoots from Encom's servers, connecting directly into the grid. The portal begins to open, distorting reality and causing chaos across both worlds. Lights flicker in cities, data networks crash, and the sky within the grid begins to tear apart. Ares senses the disturbance immediately. The connection to Keller's world begins pulling him like a magnet. Eve grabs his hand, trying to stabilize him, but the energy is too strong. The entire alliance watches in horror as Ares's body starts to flicker between digital and physical states. Eve realizes that Keller is trying to forcefully pull Ares into the human world. Solaris appears once more and tells her that the only way to stop the connection is to cut the conduit from within the grid, but doing so will require someone to sacrifice their existence in the system. Eve hesitates, but Ares steps forward, willing to take that risk. Eve refuses to let him go alone. Their emotional exchange becomes one of the most powerful scenes in the movie. She tells him that if he sacrifices himself, she will lose not only a friend, but the only being who ever made her believe in the beauty of both worlds. Ares gently holds her hand and promises that no matter what happens, he will always be with her. As the conduit begins to destabilize, Ares channels his energy to counter the pull. The grid trembles under the clash of forces, light and darkness swirling in an epic storm. Keller's team in the real world celebrates too early, believing they are moments away from victory, unaware that their greed is tearing apart both realities. Inside the storm, Ares uses his link to the Nexus to send a surge of pure energy through the conduit. The beam explodes in a cascade of light, severing the connection. Keller's lab goes dark as his machines overload and shut down. In the grid, the sky clears, leaving behind silence and stillness. But Ares's body begins to fade, his energy depleted from the effort. Eve rushes to him, crying as she begs him to stay. Ares looks at her with a calm smile, telling her that his journey has only just begun. He says that he has seen what lies beyond the code and that existence is not limited to form. With those final words, he dissolves into light. The programs around them bow their heads in sorrow as Eve stands alone under the glowing sky. The grid stabilizes, but her heart feels empty. Solaris approaches her and tells her that Ares's essence is now one with the system. He has become the living code, the heartbeat of the digital world. The part ends with Eve standing at the edge of a digital cliff, looking into the horizon of the grid. She whispers a promise to Ares that she will continue his mission to unite both worlds and ensure that his sacrifice was not in vain. The scene fades with a soft pulse of light echoing through the grid, a sign that Ares still lives within it.